On SA Today on SABC News, as the country continues to reel from the murder of women, looting and attacks on foreign nationals, the South African Council of Churches is today holding a national day of prayer and sermon at the Johannesburg Central Methodist Church this afternoon. Bishop Melusi Mpumlwana and General Secretary of the South African Council of Churches is also expected to speak at that service. On Thursday, during his address to the nation, President Ramaphosa called on religious leaders and communities to lead the country in prayer and to humble ourselves and bring healing. Let's cross now to our reporter who's there at the church, Mahlaku Komane. Mahlaku, good afternoon to you. I see there's a number of dignitaries in that crowd at the moment. I thought I saw Graça Machel. Talk to us about this prayer session. I believe a number of issues, though, affecting the country are being prayed for today. Tell us more.
Yes, definitely. We have been speaking to the South African Council of Churches, and then they're just telling us that this has been ongoing from as early as this morning. Churches across the country, member churches of the council were asked to, take the call by the president to pray for the country and also the ongoing violence from the gender-based violence, as well as the attack on foreigners, where we saw it was a very busy week for South Africa with a lot of looting that happened, as well as also the murders that we saw happening this week. The funeral that we had of Winyana yesterday as well, and also missing children as well, or missing women that we have yet to locate as well. And also we also know that in Mamelodi as well, 2 children were also found. They went missing as well, and they were also killed there. So indeed a very sad week for South Africa. But we will be speaking to the bishop just to get an understanding of this call that they've taking up the call of the president to pray for the country, as well as to preach a message of peace among congregants. And he also just told me earlier on that looking at it, South Africa is a majority Christian country with a lot of people believing in some sort of higher power, and he's just going to tell us what is it that will be happening here today, and what outcome can we expect to have, if we pray about this issue. Can you just thank you so much for talking to us, Bishop. Can you just please quickly just tell us, the call has been made as a church. How long can we expect these services to go on, and what will come out of today's service?
Today is simply here. What we're doing is making a focal point of a call we made last week to all our churches across the country, that they should, beginning this week, to continue to be praying and engaging and listening to understand some of the issues that people are raising, because there are lots. Studies have told us that 62% of South Africans believe that Africans from other countries are bad for this country. Now, that's a huge number. The question is, why do people believe that? To be doing in our education, because it doesn't help to condemn without teaching. And so what we're trying to do here is to say, let's begin the process by ourselves as Christians in this room to acknowledge what we have done or have not done, and then be able to say we'll go out from here with a commitment. There are a number of things that are really burning. A huge one is actually the gender-based violence, because unlike things that come and go, however bad they may be, like the attacks on foreign nationals, we saw this happening in 2008, saw it happening in 2015, is risen its reared its head again this time. But gender-based violence is daily. It's in every home, in every workplace, in every institution of learning, everywhere, in the street, everywhere, women are experiencing it. And a society that turns a blind eye to that is a society of death, and that's exactly what this week has shown us. And though we are therefore saying that the death of Uyinene Mrwetyana must be a call for this be the last one. There shouldn't be, I know already that after she had died, yet more have died, but the resolve must be now that gender-based violence in every form and abuse, molestation, that must be something that we go out to fight against like the plague. There was a call a few years ago for this country to fight HIV and AIDS, and antiretrovirals were rolled out. We need an antiretroviral against gender-based violence in every form. And of course, a lot of men say, I'm not one of those. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There is no one of those or not one of those, because that in itself is a way of escaping the reality and taking responsibility for it. So it's something that we hope this service will give us the energy to do that. But also, because we are a society that tends to cover itself in ignorance, we allow ourselves to believe all these things that are being said in social media about foreign nationals. We forget that this country has got students who have come to study here from other countries, and they pay fees to be here. We've got people that are employed here by companies as professionals, companies that invest in this country, as well as South African companies that look for certain skills. And they are here with their families and their children who go to South African schools. We've got refugees who are here legitimately, who are running away from persecution in other countries like we did have people go to other countries to do the same. And so there is also, of course, the fact that the South African economy was developed on the backs of the labor of neighboring countries. We know, those of us who are old enough remember, that every year there was a plane load of Malawians that were coming into this country, and there was one that actually fell and killed Malawian workers. Now, we didn't have these buses at the back those days, but the governments were taking responsibility. There have been Mozambicans working in this economy since the 1890s. And so now suddenly these people are not wanted. In fact, we have got an economy, even though it's in decline, but that economy was not built only by South Africans. And so there's every legitimate expectation, if their parents have been working in migrant labor system in this country, that they will also get an opportunity to work. What it takes is for our government to be serious about regulating how people travel and the registration of people. Those are refugees and those that are employees, and so on and so on. This becomes necessary. Of course, people are complaining, and I know that a while back, some Council of Churches sent a delegation to Jeppestown hostel. And the Dunas there said, Mfundis, that shop and that shop and that shop, it looks like a shop in front. Go and check behind. You'll find that it's a brothel. It is taking young South African girls into that place, and it's run by Nigeria. That's what they tell us. We have run to the police to report, and the police are paid to turn a blind eye. Now, it does not mean that every Nigerian is a drug dealer. It doesn't mean that every Nigerian is a thug. It does mean that there are South Africans, there are Nigerians, there are Americans, there are Indians who are thugs in their own right, not because they are Indian, not because they are Nigerian, but because they are criminals. Now, we need to deal with criminality for criminality's sake and not blanket it into nationalities. Because to do that is the same thing as to say all black people are bad, that's racism. All women are bad, that's sexism. Therefore, to say all Nigerians are bad is actually xenophobia.
Now, Bishop, on the issue of gender-based violence and the church, the church fingers have been pointed at the church,
oh, yes,
that the church houses your rapists, the church houses your women abusers or your abusers in general. What message do you think going forward the church needs to preach to ensure that people like that actually get some sort of reform within the people that walk into these doors of the church every Sunday or every Saturday? A lot of them, some have issues. Wives are crying, and some churches would rather protect the image of the church than women and the other members, the weaker sex, so to speak.
Yes, that is a general problem. In fact, we'll be dealing with that specifically today. That there is a shroud of cover, whether it is in the family, malume, or the cousin. There's protection. You don't want to shambalaza the family. The same thing happens in the workplace. You don't want to give a bad name to it. There's a reputational risk for the company. The same thing happens, therefore, in the church. Everywhere this happens. So we need to deal with the shroud of silence. And, just a couple of weeks ago, we buried a very prominent woman who we didn't know for 10 years. She's been living with abuse that has led her to walk on her feet in Diepsloot to look for a police station without help, and gets there, no help. Now, it tells you that even where you think people are comfortable, there is no comfort. And so we need to deal with it. But the issue here is to say, make the space for ensuring that nobody says, I didn't know. No man should ever argue that I'm not aware, I'm not conscious of it. And therefore, the church, the same thing. In fact, some of the pastors are the molesters themselves. And we say we want to protect our churches. We have to actually out everyone.
Thank you so much, Bishop. And as you've heard, these are the issues that will be on the sermon today will be trying to address, the church will be trying to address those issues of gender-based violence, as well as the violence that we've seen that has broken out against foreign nationals in the country. And also just the bishop saying that they are aware that some of people that perpetuate some of these violences, especially against women, are, find themselves in the church. And we're hoping that going forward, that this will be an issue that will be addressed.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Matlako. Of course, that interesting reference to Dr. Ndlovu there, who, of course, we heard recently at her funeral was also really suffering at the hands of her own ex-husband. So, of course, that prayer session will get underway shortly. You, of course, did see those images from the church that it is slowly filling up.